Hello, Wolfpack. Ethereum is the topic today, and Ethereum looks significantly better than Bitcoin. I mentioned it in a previous video. I didn't look into it too deeply, but this video is going to be looking into it quite a bit more, substantially, a bit more extensively, about why I think that Ethereum does look better than Bitcoin in terms of structure. And look. The fact of the matter is, Bitcoin has been performing quite abnormally, right? Everything went as planned the entire year. If you don't think that is the case, I would encourage you to look at it from an objective standpoint rather than an emotional standpoint. We went upwards, we topped out in May, like has happened in previous cycles. We bottomed out in July, like has happened in previous cycles. Topped out in early September, bottomed out in late September, went up in October, and then had a November correction. The problem with the Bitcoin rally, and the problem with the Bitcoin cycle right now, is that November correction has extended, and it's probably going to be extending, into December, maybe. I mean, it depends if we recover right now. Technically, it's still a November correction, but the point is, it's gone on longer than we would expect, while all of the other events didn't, okay? And this would encourage some people to believe that maybe Ethereum is going to be the one leading the market in this market cycle, if they're still bullish on the market, but not particularly bullish on Bitcoin, right? And it makes sense to a certain extent. Now, I'm not a believer in the fact that Ethereum is going to lead the market cycle. I think that the biggest coin needs to lead the market cycle, and that is Bitcoin. But Ethereum definitely does have a role to play. And I think that in this cycle, more so than the last cycle, it has a bigger role to play, because in the last cycle, Ethereum was a very, very small coin still, okay? Now it is up, well, it wasn't small, right? It was still second in the market cap ranking by January. But the point is, in the early cycle of last cycle, it wasn't particularly big, didn't really have a massive influence in the market. Now it is well and truly a set-in-stone leader of the altcoins. And seeing the Bitcoin structure recently, it looks a lot more negative than the Ethereum structure. So let's take a look into it. This video is not meant to mean that I think that Ethereum's the king or whatever. I actually don't, right? I firmly believe that Bitcoin is, quote unquote, the best cryptocurrency in terms of long-term investment, purely because it is, decentralized money, right? It has the name Bitcoin, and for those of you who don't think that matters, it actually does, right? Think about Coca-Cola versus Pepsi. Is Coke substantially better than Pepsi? I don't know. It's subjective, maybe, maybe not, but it has the name Coke, and so whenever everyone thinks of soda, they think of Coke. Same thing with Bitcoin, same thing with Tesla, right? Is Tesla going to be the best electric car forever? I don't know. I can't read the future. Probably not, though, if you think about the fact that there's probably going to be hundreds of companies making electric cars, but it's still probably going to be the world's most well-known, because it was the first, right? It's the first one to get their name out there. So the branding effect is very, very real, and obviously it's not just branding, it obviously is fundamentals at the same time, but the point is, I don't really think Ethereum is going to overtake Bitcoin at any point, let alone in this cycle for sure. If it does happen, it definitely won't be in this cycle. I think that there's a lot of ground to make in this cycle if it's going to do that. It would be completely mind-boggling. Point is, I think Ethereum does have a strong use case for sure, but I just don't think it's anywhere comparable to Bitcoin. And that's not a problem, but it is useful. And the reason why I look at Ethereum regularly is because it's useful in determining altcoin price movements, as it is the leader of the altcoins. And that's why this bounce and this bullish structure in comparison to Bitcoin that we're seeing on Ethereum is interesting to see, whereas Bitcoin has been a bit more laggy. It shows us that potentially we could be seeing some bullish price action on altcoins on a general basis earlier than we would expect, right? Usually we see bullish price action on altcoins very late in the cycle, right? Q4, Q1. Those of you who believe in lengthening cycles would even say we should be seeing an altcoin season even later, deep into next year, right? Because they generally believe that the altcoin season happens after Bitcoin tops, which I agree with, but we know we might be at a tipping point here, and I'm not saying it for certain because I don't necessarily agree with it, but it is interesting to see, okay? And the point is, Ethereum, in this correction, unlike Bitcoin, and we know what the Bitcoin chart looks like, we can look at that if we wanted to in a second here, but essentially, Ethereum, unlike Bitcoin, has come down here, and it's tested a very interesting level for support. Now, I know Bitcoin has an uptrending level of support. In fact, let's bring up Bitcoin quickly before we look at Ethereum so we can get a good idea of what we're comparing to here. We have the Bitcoin daily chart right here. Bitcoin has a pretty clear uptrending level of support from around the July period all the way through here, and we can see if we put on the log chart, we can see that we actually retested that support level, and now we're probably going to be bouncing up to the upside. Okay, so there is a strong level of support on Bitcoin, but Ethereum has an even stronger level of support coming from the fact that it hasn't corrected as substantially. It's formed a lovely double bottom formation with bullish divergences coming from all levels, and it's actually retested the not only this top area here in September, much like Bitcoin. Sorry, that was the wrong button there. Top area in September, much like Bitcoin, but also the top of this ascending channel that has been long lasting since the August time period, and it's bounced clean off of that. Now, Ethereum is also in a consolidation structure, right? Just before we get into that, we also have a bullish back decrossing coming on the daily chart soon, which would further emphasize this bounce. Now, it's also in a consolidation structure, unlike Bitcoin. Bitcoin is kind of trying to make a head and shoulders pattern, inverse head and shoulders pattern, and break to the upside, where Ethereum has been consolidating since late October, right? It's been in a pretty clear compression pattern, and we've also recently rejected from the top of this compression pattern. Now, whether we come down back here to around 4K again before bouncing to the upside, or whether we just break to the upside right now, or whether we do something like this before breaking to the upside, is another question that I'm not going to try to answer in this video. But the point is, unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum has had a very, very, very clear structure that's been following throughout this correction, whereas Bitcoin, we've kind of just been going in blind. We've kind of just said 53K looks logical since 66K or 69K, whereas Ethereum, we've said that, in this entire correction, we know what's happening. We know that we're in this triangular structure, and there's a lot more confidence around Ethereum right now, and that's why we're seeing the Ethereum BTC chart bounce, right? Ethereum BTC is how Ethereum is performing in relation to Bitcoin. This is the chart we have up right now, and during this entire Bitcoin correction, we can see the confidence people are having with Ethereum right on this chart. We can see that we've had this entire bounce from around starting here in when Bitcoin's been correcting in the November region, Ethereum dominance, or Ethereum in relation to Bitcoin on the Ethereum BTC pair has bounced from 70,000 sats to 78,000 sats, and we're currently testing a critical resistance block that we tested not only in May but also in September. So we're forming a W formation, right? We formed one already, and now we're probably going to be seeing a break to the upside if Ethereum breaks this consolidation pattern to the upside, which I think it will, because Ethereum, as I said, looks substantially better than Bitcoin right now. As for the USD pair, and this is one of the reasons why I'm looking at the Bitcoin pair on Ethereum, we had this similar W formation pattern here, right? We had a W formation pattern, we broke to the upside, right? If we do the same thing, we'll be breaking this red resistance box to the upside here. If we break this triangle, we'll be breaking that red resistance box to the upside there as well. The higher the Ethereum Bitcoin pair gets, the more confidence people are going to have in Ethereum in relation to Bitcoin, the more likely Ethereum's going to outperform Bitcoin, and hence the more likely altcoins are going to outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum, because Ethereum also has a higher market cap than most altcoins. So if Ethereum goes up 10%, most altcoins are going to go up 15%, right? If Bitcoin goes up 10%, Ethereum's going to go up 20%, and altcoins are going to go up 30%, right? It's all about market capitalization. So seeing Ethereum be bullish is interesting, because it's not what we usually, it's not what we typically see at this point in the market cycle. We want to be seeing, if we're going to follow the market cycle perfectly, right? We want to be seeing Bitcoin be the center of attention still, right? That's if we're going to follow it perfectly. But right now we're seeing Ethereum kind of take hold of the market a little bit here, and that's really interesting to see, because we actually didn't really see that in the last cycle, and this is one of the reasons why it's interesting to me, because as you guys will know if you follow the channel, I'm a big believer in cyclical theory. I really do look at the cyclical theory almost daily, right? I think it's very important, and we didn't see this in the last cycle. If you see here in the same time period in the last cycle, we saw, as Bitcoin had its correction, we saw Ethereum on the Bitcoin pair dropping, which means that Ethereum was dropping even more than Bitcoin, right? Right now, we're seeing Ethereum on the Bitcoin pair rising, and Ethereum hold this critical support level on this ascending channel, which means that Ethereum is doing significantly better than it did in the last cycle at this point in the market cycle, which is interesting to see. Also, even on the USD pair, Ethereum is doing much better, right? In the last cycle, we didn't break to the upside of this major resistance zone that we're seeing here. Okay, let me just run over this briefly. We had a W formation, all of the time points line up perfectly, and we broke to the upside in the last cycle. We're seeing the same thing, W formation, all of the time points line up perfectly, and we broke to the upside. The only difference being, we broke to the upside substantially earlier in the cycle. We broke to the upside of that resistance line in mid-October. In the last cycle, we broke it in late November. So Ethereum is actually ahead of schedule. It's outperforming Bitcoin, and it's outperforming itself from the previous cycle as well, which, is interesting to see. It might be because, I think personally it's because there's an abundance of projects that are built on Ethereum now. That wasn't necessarily the case in the last cycle. Ethereum was more of a solo not necessarily, but it was more solo in the last cycle than it is now. Now, buying Ethereum, you're directly contributing to a lot of other tokens that are built on Ethereum, a lot of other coins and projects that are built on Ethereum as well. So there's a lot more use case to it, and hence it's expanding at a greater rate, and more people are interested in Ethereum in comparison to Bitcoin right now. Now, I still don't think Ethereum's going to flip Bitcoin, but in the short term, it's definitely promising to see. So, what I will say again, and one more thing, and this is the Bitcoin dominance chart, we should be rising here. We should be rising if we're going to be following the last cycle perfectly. We should be rising, right? In the last cycle, we started moving back up again in mid-November on the Bitcoin dominance, and we reached an all-time high on the Bitcoin dominance in early December, right? We haven't even had a sign of moving back up. In fact, these rallies have been very, very, very weak, and what seems likely to me is just a drop down to the floor, which means that Ethereum's going to go skyrocketing, Bitcoin's going to do something, but not really too much, and that altcoin's going to go crazy. Now, whether that plays out or not, that's not a prediction. That's just what the charts are telling me right now, right? The fact of the matter is, and regardless of how you want to put it, Ethereum does look substantially better than Bitcoin right now. The market cycle, the market cyclical theory has worked out to this point, but we're seeing divergences from that. A lot of that due to Ethereum, a lot of that due to how Ethereum's moving, how it didn't move like this in the last cycle necessarily, okay? So it's an interesting time in the market, and we'll have to see. There's multiple possible scenarios that might play out here, right? One of them is that this is all just, I don't know how to explain it, an over movement, if that's the right words you use to explain that, over movement from Ethereum here too early, and we correct downwards back, and then Bitcoin takes the spotlight once again and runs up to new all-time highs, and then we see an altcoin season like we've seen in previous cycles. The other scenario is that Bitcoin has already topped out, and Bitcoin moves sideways for an extensive period of time. All the while, Ethereum still looks very, very bullish. People buy into Ethereum instead of Bitcoin, and then we have an altcoin season at current prices on Bitcoin, right? That's the alternate scenario. I suppose there is a hybrid scenario where Bitcoin goes up a little bit, but not really, and then we see an altcoin season as well. So, look, there's a lot of things we need to be looking at, but it all boils down to the fact that Ethereum, has the potential here, and has the chance to pick the market up by its boots, and trigger an altcoin season preemptively here. Whether it will happen or not is something we'll have to keep an eye on. But it looks promising in relation to Bitcoin, and we're going to be waiting. And the most critical thing we're going to be waiting for is a break for this triangle on the 4-hourly chart, and also a break of this resistance on the Bitcoin pair as well. From that point, it will be basically set in stone, right? If we break this resistance on the Bitcoin pair, that's basically a sign that Ethereum's going to rally massively. And Ethereum doesn't really rally massively until after Bitcoin tops out historically. So if Ethereum rallies massively, that is also a sign that Bitcoin has already topped out. That's important to note, okay? Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.